So Tesla stock is now literally the worst performing stock in the entire S&P 500, meaning if you go through all the companies within the S&P 500 and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, Tesla stock's year-to-date performance is absolutely the worst, which is something that I've been tracking with my previous videos. In fact, I've made several videos talking about Tesla stock falling down. In fact, I made videos around the peak over here, how this euphoria wasn't going to last because it wasn't based on the fundamentals, right? I made several videos talking about Tesla stock in danger. And I mean, it almost seems like almost all my videos were kind of like a warning for Tesla stock, just because there was a lot of greed taking place when Tesla stock rose up to these highs of $480. But of course, no one wants to listen to you when you're talking about a stock that's in all-time highs, saying that's going to fall down. But here we are with weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, right, of me just making these videos, with Tesla, of course, being now literally the worst performing stock in the entire S&P 500. Now, in this video, I want to share a very interesting clip that we got from Elon Musk today that I think is a bit concerning, as well as some new facts, some new information, and kind of just touch on some of the things I talked about in the past in regards to Tesla stock. And of course, we'll go ahead and talk about the fundamentals, the technicals. I know you guys love it when I break down the technicals, so we'll definitely cover a lot in this video. Now, starting off kind of with the fundamentals that I've touched on before, right? Tesla stock is trading at a very greedy multiple, higher than most of its constituents within the Magnificent Seven. Now, I don't have all of them here, but we have Meta, Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, and Tesla stock is still highest in compared, to all these other companies, right? And I kind of broke it down in a previous video of what this actually means, because a high PE ratio doesn't necessarily mean that something's overpriced. In fact, in the previous video, I broke down that when you have something with a high P/E ratio, it means that market participants expect massive future earnings growth, right? This was literally something I screenshotted from my notepad from a previous video, and I shared how they're not buying Tesla stock based on today's profits, but rather what they believe Tesla will earn in the future. Right? And so when you have a high multiple like this, again, it doesn't automatically mean, oh, something's overvalued. But there's a couple of things you want to consider, right? Because if Tesla's growing fast, their earnings are growing, then the high PE ratio actually justifies its high growth. The concern is, well, if Tesla's earnings don't grow as expected, the stock could drop because of the valuations becoming unsustainable. Hence, why we're seeing these big drops. A lot of it wasn't due to the fundamentals. Newsflash, right? I know people are going to say, but Justin, the robots, right? We haven't had any sales of the robots, and we haven't even had any good, accurate kind of analysis of how many robots are going to be deployed. It's always a magical number saying that, Elon in his earnings call saying that it's just going to make Tesla the most valuable company in the entire world. Which here we are today, it's literally the worst company in the S&P 500, right? But let's go ahead and talk about a couple things. And by the way, this is not a hit piece on Tesla, right? I was very bullish on Tesla, from 2019, right? Took a massive bull run, but you can't marry a stock, right? I'm not a Uber Tesla zealot, right? I'm gonna call it as it is. And what I mentioned in previous videos is that while electric vehicle sales in Europe were growing, Tesla sales plummeted 50%, and then 29% in China, which is a big market. China's a huge market for Tesla, so this is a big no-no, right? I talked about how sentiment for Tesla was horrible. There's people burning down charging stations. Now, I'm not saying, first of all, I don't have to even explain how this is bad, right? If you hate Elon, if you hate Tesla, okay, whatever, but please, vandalism, destruction of property, not a good thing. Everyone should know that, but I mentioned how we're seeing these arsons take place of people literally burning down charging stations. You don't see that normally when people are like boycotting a company, right? You may hear people saying, oh, I'm going to boycott this company. No, people are boycotting Tesla and burning down lots of its property, right? This was in Massachusetts recently. We also had in France dozens of Tesla vehicles being torched, right? Arson is suspected, right? There's a lot of hate, right? And I talked about this. This isn't brand new information. Now, I also touched on in the past how a lot of the board of directors have been selling Tesla like hotcakes, right? It's insane, right? We have Tesla board member sold 54,776 shares of Tesla stock today, March 10th, and they're continuing to dump Tesla stock, right? It's insane how fast they're dropping Tesla stock. It's like people who sign up for a new gym membership in January, right? New Year's resolution, and then by the third month of the year, they're just dropping it, right? Dropping it like a rock. Oh, it's not for me, right? So that's kind of like what we're seeing here with the board of directors. They're just throwing away the shares, right? Now, I often talk about how I really don't care when insiders are selling. I care more about when they're buying, because when they're buying, it could only mean one thing. They're bullish. When they're selling, hey, someone may sell some shares because maybe they got to pay tuition for their children, right? There's so many reasons why someone may need to sell a bit of shares, but the rate that we're seeing these board of directors sell shares is a bit alarming, right? So something else you want to be mindful of. Now, James Cat, right? Which, by the way, he's a big fan of Tesla, right? He only posts about Tesla, not as much as some of the other Tesla zealots, but he's a bit more like unbiased. And he's not someone who's always riding Elon's, whatever. But he mentioned that the Trump pump, which started right before the election, has officially been wiped out. And you could see that, right? We had the Trump pump, and Tesla just made these new all-time highs, and now it's gone, right? Now it's just not there. So a bit concerning. We also had pretty much Tesla extend to a 15% drop, which is the biggest drop since September 2020, which 2020 was a horrible year. Everyone knows what happened, all right? A once in 100-year pandemic. September tends to be a very bearish month, and yet we broke the record for how fast Tesla stock is falling down. Now, we also have this that Elon himself tweeted just a few hours ago, right? He mentioned, he was responding to someone saying, first protests against Doge, then Tesla stores were attacked, now X is down. And Elon responded how there was and still is a massive cyber attack against X. We're getting attacked every day, but this was done with a lot of resources. Either a large coordinated group and or a country is involved. Tracing. So we're now hearing from Elon Musk himself saying that there's some forces, right? It's kind of like when Andrew Tate says the Matrix is against him, right? But whatever it is, people are working very strongly against all of Elon Musk's companies, whether it's Tesla, whether it's X, right? We're seeing these massive attacks, and that's again me just talking about the sentiment against Elon pretty much just deteriorating. Now, I want to also go ahead and highlight this video here that I saw Meet Kevin actually post here, and I wanted to play it for you guys real quick.
Yeah.
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty. Yeah, I mean...
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient, eliminate waste and fraud, and so far we're making good progress, actually. So, yeah.
And so, what me, Kevin, ended up posting just a few hours ago is how someone asked, how are you dealing with your other businesses? And me, Kevin said, you could feel his pain, right? So definitely a lot of pain that Elon Musk himself is feeling with these attacks, right? And again, it all goes down to, his political ties. Again, not saying I'm against it or for it, right? I often talk about how I consider myself more moderate. I'm not very extreme to the right. I'm not extreme to the left, right? I just try to look at policies as they are individually. So, I'm not one of those people that's like hating Elon Musk, right? I'm not like an Elon Musk hater. I'm just covering how the hate that he has been getting has been pretty much contributing to this deterioration of the brand and its sentiment, hence why Tesla stock is falling down like a rock. Now, looking into like a technical perspective, right? We kind of talked about some of the news, some of the fundamentals, so, everything going on. What's really concerning is I talked about how Tesla stock, as it was falling down, could end up bouncing around these areas right over here where we see, by the way, this is the market profile. I think I should probably explain this. So basically, this measures the distribution of price and how long price has stayed at a certain area. And when you have these little pockets over here, those are like little low areas of liquidity. Hence why when, we tend to see these pockets, when there's selling pressure, the stock will push down because there's very little liquidity, and the selling actually pushes the order books down. And it said, hey, over here we finally have a lot more liquidity, and so that could act as a area of support. Now, what's very dangerous is that we just broke down this area where there was a lot of liquidity, which simply means that even with liquidity, right, there were still so many more sellers participating in selling Tesla that it didn't even hold up as an area of support and it broke down. Let's actually change this chart. Let's change this to a candlestick chart, right? Insane. Huge candle. You want to see this reverse. You want to see this going up. You don't want to see this white candle going down. By the way, I have it black and white. White, think of it as like sand pushing the stock down. Hollow, right, where it's black, think of it as like helium pushing things up, right? They're floating. Well, we're basically seeing just large sand push Tesla stock down, right? Kind of just how I break down why how to look at the chart that I have, since I have it in black and white. But I like looking at line charts. Basically, we are in a very dangerous level. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that the next area of support is kind of around $215. If we don't hold up, and you guys could see that this was a previous, support in the past, and it ended up being resistance. Then it ended up being kind of like support around over here, right? That's like the principles of polarity. What ends up being resistance in the past ends up being support for the future. But again, stocks don't have to adhere to none of these squiggly lines on the chart, right? We just use technical analysis to kind of measure what's going on. And we look at the, in different aspects to kind of have a confirmation of price action. What is the story of the price action? And what we're seeing here is that there's a lot of volume here, and that kind of confirms that the direction is still pretty strong, going downwards, so a bit concerning. I mentioned that we're below the screen line, which is the 200-day moving average. You don't want to see a stock below the 200 moving average. That's kind of bad. This is the exponential moving average, by the way, so it puts a little bit more weight on the most recent data points. But historically, when you see a stock below the moving average, it's kind of an idea that it's going to likely continue selling off. And eventually, when it crosses above it, well, that's a good sign. Well, we're currently below it. And so not looking good for Tesla at all. Of course, we'll go ahead and continue looking into the developments of Tesla. I'll continue providing updates. Remember, also the biggest selling days are where we tend to see right after the best buying opportunities. So we may end up seeing buyers step in. But we'll of course have to, monitor that. We don't want to just jump to conclusions without waiting for confirmations. Confirmation is something I talk about very often within the Push and Profit private group, which, by the way, I just released a huge, massive sale to join the Push and Profit private group for just $6 for the first 2 months. You could cancel anytime. I'll put the coupon link in the description of this video. I'll also pin it in the comment section down below. So if you're interested, I'm going to do a deep dive just talking about the overall market today in my daily briefing. So if you want to catch that, definitely check out the links in the description below. But you guys let me know your thoughts on Tesla moving forward. Are you guys actually buying in? You are sitting on the sidelines? Or are you just exiting as soon as you can, just like the board of directors? You guys let me know, and thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys on this next video right over here. Take care, guys.